Hello and welcome to Greece Mountain. This is the second ever bog, although it kind of feels like the third because I started to record a video about the Hackjaw, which is the signature weapon of my main character from a game idea, but I forgot to switch to recording the screen that was showing like all the artwork that I was kind of going through. So it was just my fucking ugly mug just ranting with no images. So whoa, that was a bit of a waste of time. And as well, because it was the first time I've gone through some of these early sketches for the Hackjaw for ages, because probably for like a year, I've been focused on game development for Conjoined, so it's like had to put a lot of these things which I was really getting into onto the back burner, and I think just reacting to it first time had a little bit of novelty for me, and because I think of those things quite fondly, just looking back at the progression of these ideas, it was like a little fun thing. But now now that magic is slightly lost. I'll try and I don't know. No, I'm not gonna pretend to react to shit in the same way, but I'll just go through it again. Probably a little bit more jaded. But yeah, I'll remember to do this time. Fuck. So prior, I kind of was thinking of just going through all of the designs, all of the world building at once, for the game idea, Biosynth. And I might still do that, but I think it's becoming more appropriate to go through some of the designs as I develop the game assets for them. So yeah, so this is what this video is going to be about. The Hackjaw, you can probably hardly even see it because it just resembles the final design so little. But this is the first page of the sketchbook for the game at this point. Like didn't know how to make a game then. I still don't quite. There's a lot I don't know, but I'm getting there. But so here's like kind of the first tiny little spark of the Hackjaw. It's lacking a lot. It kind of just looks like a spine with a couple claws almost attached to it. And here's like the first sketch of the main character, which is Kenny the Lung. A little bit of lore and backstory on this guy is basically he actually wait no I'll talk about him in a sec, but so yeah, here's like the second version of sketches kind of thing. Is starting to develop the kind of gum layer, and structurally it's slowly going away from it protruding from the wrist joint on and doubling back to it kind of coming out of the elbow, but it's not quite there. But it's getting closer. Here's the next kind of incarnation. Again, it's not quite the design that became the final thing. It's a little bit floppy. Kind of the way it comes out the arm, it structurally slightly resembles the final thing, but just it feels a bit flat. There's not much fluidity to the design. I know it's like this is just like a little sketch and everything, but yeah, and the teeth themselves look more like talons than teeth, really. But that little upturned bit of the kind of what I refer to as the lip is coming into play. And we got Kenny, basically. Okay, so I'm going to begin to describe the main character a little bit. So here he is kind of before he becomes the character you hypothetically will play as in the game. So the two kind of like underground job roles I want to describe is firstly the one Kenny originally was, the one he wanted to be, which is a lung runner. And a lung runner is somebody who transports biosynthetic parts, or essentially organs, for the different gangs within the city. If you imagine, it's a little bit like the world itself is a little bit like a mixture of like cyberpunk and like HR Giga's Alien kind of vibe, and it's like almost like gothic biological architecture, but at the same time there's like a punky kind of like social, like everything's, because biology is just being torn apart and remade over and over again, and there was like illness, but it's just, yeah. So but yeah, so he's like a lung runner, but then he gets into some bad situations with one of the gangs, and he's forced to become an amputer, or what is more colloquially referred to as a amp. So an amp is a lot darker than a lung runner, because a lung runner is just a speedy little dude who will transport the various biosynthetic parts through the city. Usually no questions asked. They're just a courier of sorts. But if you imagine like an amputator is more like a loan shark, and a lot of these gangs were in fact loan different organs, different biosynthetic parts to people, but if they aren't able to pay for them and stuff like that, then they'll send someone with this beautiful appendage, which is actually one of the first designs I really went with, to come and cut it out of you, which is an ordeal, hence all the, but yeah, so he never really wanted to get into it, and so he's kind of betrayed by his gang, and eventually he kind of refuses to do it anymore, and then some shit happens, and then the whole kind of narrative side of it is like he's got all of these biosynthetic weapons attached to him that he never even really wanted, but I'll get into it another time, but like he's needs to get revenge. He's massively betrayed and cast out, and goes on a big old quest. But back to this. This is the first real design kind of compared to this one. This, it's just kind of like dangling. No, not particular form. I kind of mentioned that before, but this one, it feels more like, maybe it's like the way he's holding it, but like it feels like more sturdy. Like you could actually use it for something, which is an interesting balance to make, because in a world where everything's like, biological, it's all going to be a bit floppy. But at the same time, you want it to have some physical kind of presence. So I was just quite happy with the way that this design met in the middle with those kind of like conflicting design elements. Here's just another one. I actually think this is a bit more too thin in hindsight. Ink cast, I'm not sure, can't remember. There's a little introduction of the so yeah, kind of diverting from the hack draw a little bit, but So you get these kind of like familiars, which are these strange amalgamations of biology, and they used to do a variety of things. It seems in this case he's kind of powering the weapon that he's holding, and I'm considering really pushing the whole like hand gesture thing. That because I always love the dichotomy of like, you know, serious sci-fi, but then like a little kind of meme thrown in. Like I just like that. But yeah, coming on to the final thing, it's more of just like a real sketchbook thing. But I'll just go through these, and it's kind of relevant because I was actually working with the new tendril concept with the I basically rigged the Hackjaw to work as a tendril as well. But Hackjaw variants, these variants can be transmogrified, shifted, in between during combat by Kenny when in possession of the Ooblet. Shifting without may result in the Lech. Okay, so that's packed with stuff I'm trying to remember. So, okay, the Ooblet, if I can remember correctly, is something that Kenny requires, which enables him to shift in between these different versions of the Hackjaw, which is something that people can't generally do. They have to use the other two. Yeah, so, okay, there's 3 different methods of kind of obtaining these appendages. Burgeoning, where you inject yourself with gen cells and agrofoam. Gen cells are a substance that carries the genetic information which enables you to grow these things. And then agrofoam is kind of like, in like the world of steroids, like HGH, like growth hormone, but it's like supercharged growth hormone. So you inject yourself with the I'm getting a mind blank now. It's been so long. The gen cells, and then the agrofoam, and then you'll grow it, but it'll take a minute, but it will be kind of solid. That's called burgeoning. There's stitching, which is kind of how it sounds. It's the lower class version, and a lot of these aren't necessarily weapons. They're things you would need for it to work in a certain industry. If you need to pick up stuff, or if you needed to work in very like, I don't know, you'd have just some kind of like little tools. Imagine like Go Gadget, but biological. All of that stuff, but on a massive class system kind of thing. And stitching it is like the cheapest and quickest way, because they're all grown remotely, and there's a whole kind of like conspiracy where these things called child factories, where they'll take children away and put them in these massive vats and grow a bunch of different biosynthetic parts off of them, and then remove them, cast the kids away, whatever, and sell them on. So it's all like, stitching is like a really dark one, but shifting or transmogrification is basically you have one biosynthetic part, but then you inject yourself with like a bunch of gen cells, and kind of it transmugrifies in between the two, and sometimes you can even get hybridization, or as like a synergy between the two. Like you'll kind of inherit different, because it's all biological. It's like and that'll become like more like a game mechanic. But a problem is with this is that you get mutations, and sometimes you'll get like synergy and hybridization between the two varying types of biosynthetic part, but sometimes you won't, and you'll get mutations, and there's this whole scourge, this whole sci-fi zombie shit, basically, called the Lech, and it's really fucking people up. And there's a lot of artwork about this stuff, but I'm gonna try and rein it back in and just focus on the weapon. Yeah, so normal hack jaw, standard jaw used by amputers, and then there's the chain jaw. Jaw connected to a ribbed tendril, often used by amputers that like to maintain distance from their target, explanting biosynthetic parts with quick whip-like strikes. And then the power jaw, industrial grade jaw, originally designed to cut down large chunks of biomass, requires a large amount of agrofoam to burgeon the gen cells for this. The gen cells, I lost my place. Biosynthetic farms. Wait. Oh yeah, the gen cells for this jaw can usually be found at biosynthetic farms / child factories. The power jaw is most often used by heavy strength based amputers. So almost like the first two I've kind of already developed in terms of game assets, not to completion, but I think once I start to develop blend trees or whatever, morph targets, able to really like get some cool transitions and animate the geometry to transform into different shapes. That's when I'll start to develop stuff like the power jaw. But for now, just I've used rigging to achieve the chain jaw kind of vibe. So if I go, oh wait, before I do this, I'm just gonna go into here, and here's kind of like the current model. I've obviously, well, you'll see in a sec, I've just kind of decimated it, which is just like making it very simple so that it's not going to be like a final asset, but just something to rig in the meantime. Yeah, I'll probably do like another pass because it's been so long since doing this. I think this section here especially could use a bit of texture, which will be quite crucial as well, because this is going to have a lot of stretching, and trying to figure out the best way to texture something that's going to stretch around is going to be an interesting kind of problem to solve. But so here, okay, so I've rigged the hack jaw since yesterday. It was quite a mission. I was originally attempting just to use the spine rig that I developed for the character himself, but that's not the one. No, there we go. But that didn't really work too well. So I looked into it, and there's this other form of rigging, kind of long tendril-like spines called what is it called again? Ribbon, where you. I'll get into that soon, but it's actually probably my favorite method of rigging stuff like that at the moment. I'm probably going to employ it even for body parts of the main character, like the forearm that has twist and stuff like that. But so I'll show. Here's here, okay, so this is like all purely conceptual. There's a lot of problems, so it's a mixture of kind of concept animation and testing the rig as it is right now, still unfinished. Obviously, again, if you've seen the last bog, these men have clothes and stuff. So the idea is that it will actually completely not be present, and then you'll kind of like take it out, like shoot out of his forearm kind of thing. But this animation is him using, I suppose you'd call the chain jaw version of the Hackjaw to kind of lasso or himself up. So I'll just play it and talk about it, I guess. A little bit Spider-Man-y. Grapple's the word, I'd say, actually, yeah. Kind of like grapples. It's a little bit floaty. But it was enough to get a feel for what the rig could kind of do. But I had a lot of fun testing it out because, you spend so much time on the rig itself. Actually getting to muck about with it in a scene is it's really fun. And at the same time, you learn a lot about, because you could make a rig, but then I think actually testing out and seeing its limitations helps to reinforce like what you've accomplished and also what you need to change. There's quite a few issues I feel right now with the rig. If I put this back on, for example, like here kind of thing, like as soon as that's here, because of the forward kinematics, you kind of have to either say if you're like, you could actually be pulling back a little bit right now because of the forward kinematics. All of the following joints, although this is more, this is kind of FK, I guess. And actually, now I think about it, there probably would be a way to fix this. You literally just don't parent the wrist joints to the shoulder controller. That's probably what I'll do. But yeah, it's not something I realized. But like right now, once you've kind of placed this up there, any adjustments you make ruin the placement of the Hackjaw, which is, although it seems to be kind of clipping through, that the Hackjaw is kind of meant to be, was it pre-attach? Oh yeah, it's pre-attach. So the really cool thing about the way I rigged this the Hackjaw is you can get a lot of like flexibility with this part, so it can kind of be used as a like a grapple hook. It'll kind of fire up, but then kind of can contract, and obviously it's really janky right now, especially because of what I just described with the forward kinematics and the way that it's parented by the shoulder joints. But apart from that, you can manipulate it so it really, and it's not being properly weight painted or anything, but you could really try and extend that to make it feel like it's straining and kind of wrapping around whatever thing. And obviously that isn't reserved for environment stuff. I was thinking that the this kind of mode of the weapon could be used for a variety of combat attacks and stuff as well. So you could like this. Say if it was like a heavier enemy, I can imagine like you could grapple towards them and then have like a follow-up attack, or maybe like with smaller enemies you could grapple them and pull them towards you, or you could even use it to maybe acquire like pickups and consumables within the game. Like maybe if there was a bunch of objects out of reach, then there would be a way to use this kind of grapple mechanic to acquire that. I haven't really thought about how you would actually control it within. I might just let this play actually. yeah, I'm not really, although I kind of messed up probably a little bit with um but yeah, I'm not exactly sure how you would use it in terms of game mechanics. Kind of think of stuff like Sekiro, where you have just certain things which you can grapple to, and it's all kind of like once you press that, once you see that thing and you press that button, it kind of like procedurally shoots up to it. So right now, there's no physics simulation or real, yeah, like is there's IK, but it's not like smart IK. It's just like IK that's used in general rigging, which would never translate to in-engine coolness. But I'm thinking there's quite a bit of potential there for the way this can be used. And just from like a animation perspective, and again, I must say I'm not an animator or a rigger really. Like, I guess what I mean to say, it's like I'm not. I don't have an animator's mind necessarily. Like, I'm just a little 3D modeler. But this is also, not to completely go off my train of thought, but this is kind of why it's exciting to go into next year, because to be able to create cool rigs and like collaborate with an animator who really does a lot of good work with it would be really exciting. Not that I would want to just become like the designated rigger, because like I would find it too boring just to rig and not to animate at all. But some kind of like middle ground. But back to what I was saying, like the implications of animation, like I think now that the kind of tendril aspect of the, yeah, so that's still conceptual, but the tendril aspect of the Hackjaw has been rigged. You can get a lot of like squash and stretch, which is, like seems to be the main like kind of fundamental thing about animation is squash and stretch, and this can obviously really do that. I think so. I've showed this off a little bit. I've kind of given a little bit of backstory on the weapon and how it all kind of works within the world, and yeah, a couple ideas about where we could take it. Well, if people want to make Biosynth or whatever. But just one final thing is, I don't know if this is a great idea, but I'm just gonna, I recorded pretty much before like I originally tried to just use the spine rig for the main character, but that didn't work. So I looked to different methods and found a really amazing method to rig stuff that you want to be able to stretch and bend and twist and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna play that and maybe have some comments and stuff. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, so actually you create like a NURBS plane, and then you actually simulate hair onto the NURBS plane, and then remove all the hair simulation itself and leave the follicles, which are then attached to the plane. And then you parent a bunch of joints to these follicles. And then so those joints are what actually are skinned to the mesh. Oh yeah, and yeah, so you skin the joints to the follicles or the plane, and then you skin the those joints to the mesh, and then you don't want to do all of them, but you obviously create a bunch of controllers, but it was so amazing how quickly it took compared to spine rigging, and this could easily be used for spine rigging as well. It's definitely just going to be like my preferred methodology for rigging anything that requires kind of like twist and bend in a fluid way. Not that I don't I learned a lot from doing more standard like IK and stuff like that, but at the same time, like, this was just so quick to rig. But apart from exporting it and trying to get the rig into the scene with Kenny, the main character, and his rig, for some reason, whatever I did, it wouldn't export with all of the constraints attached and stuff. So here's me just kind of going through it, and yeah, I think right now just trying to export it and put it into a separate scene on its own, but it still had the same problems, because sometimes if you say like import two of the same rig into one scene, then because everything has like the same naming conventions, it kind of fucks everything up. Probably something to do with the way that the constraints use naming conventions to associate themselves with different stuff. But it turned out it wasn't that. I can't really say exactly what it was, because I didn't find like an actual good fix for figuring out how to export and import rigs. So what I did was just eventually, I think I'm still trying to fix it in the video, but eventually just still just trying hard to figure out what the hell is going on. But yeah, so eventually what I did was just imported what I could of the this is actually imported into the Kenny rig scene. So I imported what I could and then just redid the rest within the scene, which is the long way around, the long solution, because I wasn't successfully able to transfer that rig completely. But it looks like in this part of the recording I've successfully rebuilt the constraints which weren't able to be transferred through the FBX, and now I'm trying to figure out how the hell to attach it to the arm. So first of all, I tried to kind of parent the base joint of the hack jaw to the elbow joint, and that's actually something I did kind of carry on. Yeah, it's been a useful thing. It didn't, basically, it wasn't the solution for making the weapon itself kind of like roughly point in the same direction that the forearm kind of does, but it was a really great way to make it so that the kind of base of the hack jaw would never end up outside of the elbow, which was a fear of mine. But yeah, because they're separate objects, right? But that wasn't a problem. And the solution for this was, because I still wanted to have wrist rotations without it always affecting the kind of like the rotation and position of the hack jaw. So what I did was created another kind of like controller that basically surrounded the wrist joint, parented the, which way around is it? Basically the overall the new wrist joint parented the smaller wrist joint, and then also parented the uh master controller of the Hackjaw. And that way you could have the forearm movement influence the entire placement of the Hackjaw, whilst also having individual rotations of the wrist, by virtue of the fact that it wasn't the only wrist controller, because there was a wrist controller parented to that thing. But yeah, that was my solution to that. There's still a lot of jank to it. But it's been really fun just trying to figure it out. So I'm just kind of animating the, again, more conceptual part of like the Hackjaw kind of popping out of his arm, kind of inspired by stuff like, Wolverine, and I guess like Prototype and stuff, like where these characters kind of have this hidden weapon that in a fairly gross way just comes out of their body when they need it. I think that's kind of fun. But yeah, I think for the rest of the recording, I'm literally just kind of posing and trying to figure it out. One problem currently is once you kind of move the body, a lot of the pole vectors and some other controllers as well, like don't really move very well, and along with the rest of the thing, I really do want to figure out how to get like a master controller on the whole body and just parent everything, so you can move it in space without having to move, like every individual pole vector and stuff like that. But currently, if you just parent all the controllers to a master controller, it for some reason kind of relinquishes a lot of the constraints, thus breaking the rig. But I'm sure a little poodle in the program will figure that one out. But yeah, in the course of 2 days, I've got to a point where obviously I haven't done it, like sculpted the dude and stuff. Although that isn't finished anyway. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, really. Like there's a lot of potential, I think, with the mandible attached to the tendril as a weapon kind of thing. Yeah, I'm quite, and yeah, I'm gonna get a bit more into world building and stuff. But my I guess my general aim is to, so we kind of we do have demo day tomorrow, which I'm so looking forward to. But we have the summer holidays to create like a world building pitch for a game idea that could potentially be taken forward by next year's team. And that's going to give me a nice excuse to start to develop this game idea further. And what I kind of plan to do is in Unreal create some basic gameplay. I've already been able to set up, create animations of my own for a character of my own, and put it into Unreal and use visual scripting or blueprints to create fairly basic movement controls. So I was able to add a sprint and an idle, obviously, and a walk and a jump. So I'm a little bit rusty, but I'd be able to pretty easily with this character. Have that, and then combat would be a whole nother thing. But even just for like a concept of a game, if I just worked on like an environment, which is easy enough to do for Unreal, and even just use Unreal Engine's sequencer to create like a cinematic, to kind of give an idea of the game idea. I think I'd be pretty happy with that, and I think it'd be just really cool little project to do over the summer. Because I have a lot of like drawings and whatnot that could show the idea for the game, but at this point I'm so kind of excited about my new kind of skill set with working in engine, creating animations, rigging, setting all up to be actually controlled and stuff like that. I'd much rather kind of represent my game idea through these new skills than just revert to drawing pretty pictures and everything like that. Not that I don't mind that, but it's like, I think once the ball starts rolling with all these new amazing programs and technologies and stuff, like it would feel a bit weird to go back to just drawing and stuff as like a main thing. But even drawing and shit like that feels more enjoyable because of the fact that I can take these ideas and develop with them in to a point where they become a game. Like for example, like level design, like just drawing out like a map and stuff like that. Like before, without the ability to block out and set dress like levels in Engine, like it would just be like an arbitrary doodle of like of a little place, but now everything feels like more meaningful. So yeah, that's really exciting. But yeah, so that's let's play the final thing one more time a little bit. But yeah, that's the second animation test I've already done, and I'm pretty happy with where the rig's at. I still need to do a lot of fixing up with it and facial expressions and stuff like that, but that's all just another day of watching tutorials of how to properly rig and weight paint a draw and shit. Yeah, thanks for I don't know who I'm thanking, but if you did enjoy this little dev bog, then I'm glad, because I have a lot of fun just talking about my shit and yeah, just showing it and looking back at it eventually and just see where I was at this point in my life. So bon voyage, and yeah, stay tuned for more greasy mountain dev bugs.